So in this video, I'm going to go over sentence writing. Imagine you are writing a book for school. You need to find important details that you can use for an assignment. However, when you begin to write, you notice that the book has very little punctuation. Sentences fail to form complete paragraphs, and instead form one block of text without clear organization. Most likely, this book would frustrate and confuse you. Without clear and concise sentences, it is difficult to find the information you need. For both students and professionals, clear communication is important. Whether you are typing an email or writing a report, it is your responsibility to present your thoughts clearly and precisely. Writing in complete sentences is one way to ensure that you can communicate well. So what are the components of a sentence? So clearly written sentence. So a clause is a group of words that may make up a sentence. An independent clause is a group of words that may stand alone as a complete grammatically correct thought. The following sentences show independent clauses. Independent clause, we went to the store. Independent clause, we bought the ingredients on our list. And then, independent clause, we went home. All complete sentences have at least one independent clause. When you read a sentence, you may first look for the subject. Subject is or what the sentence is about. The subject usually appears at the beginning of a sentence as a noun or pronoun. A noun is a word that identifies a person, place, or thing or idea. A pronoun is a word that replaces a noun. Common pronouns are I, he, she, it, you, they, we. In the following sentences, the subject is underlined once. Malik is the project manager for this project. He will give us our instructions. In these sentences, the subject is a person, Malik. The pronoun he replaces and refers back to Malik. The computer lab is where we will work. It will be open 24 hours a day. The project will run for 3 weeks. It will have a quick turnaround. So those are all examples of subjects and pronouns. Compound subject. A compound subject means that you have more than one subject. The word compound simply means two. So a sentence may have more than one person, place, or thing as the subject. These subjects are called compound subjects. Compound subjects are useful when you want to discuss several subjects at once. Desmond and Maria have been working on that design for almost a year. Books, magazines, and online articles are all good resources. You will often read a sentence that has more than one noun or pronoun in it. You may encounter a group of words that includes a preposition with a noun or pronoun. Prepositions connect a noun, pronoun, or verb to another word that describes or modifies that noun, pronoun, or adverb. Common prepositions include in, on, under, near, by, with, and about. A group of words that begins with a preposition is called a prepositional phrase. A prepositional phrase begins with a preposition and modifies or describes a word. It cannot act as the subject of a sentence. The following circled phrases are examples of prepositional phrases. We went on a business trip. That restaurant with the famous pizza was on the way. We stopped for lunch. So on a business trip, with the famous pizza, and for lunch are all prepositional phrases. Verbs. Once you locate the subject, you can move on to the next part of the sentence, the verb. A verb is often an action word that shows what the subject is doing. A verb can also link the subject to a describing word. There are 3 types of verbs that you can use in a sentence: action verbs, linking verbs, and helping verbs. A verb that connects the subject to an action is called an action verb. An action verb answers the question, what is the subject doing? The dog barked at the jogger. He gave a short speech. So barked and gave are action verbs. linking verbs. A linking verb connects the subject of the sentence to a describing word. This type of verb is called a linking verb because it links the subject to a describing word. In the following sentences, the words underlined twice are linking verbs. The coat was old and dirty. The clock seemed broken. If you have trouble telling the difference between action and linking verbs, remember that an action verb shows that the subject is doing something, whereas a linking verb simply connects one subject to another word that describes or modifies the subject. A few verbs can be used either as action or action verbs or linking verbs. So the verb to look can be used as both an action verb and a linking verb. The boy looked at his glove. Action verb. Linking verb. The boy looked tired. Helping verb. A helping verb is a third type of verb you may use. Helping verbs are verbs that are used with the main verb to describe a mood or tense. Helping verbs are usually in the form of to be, to do, or to have. The word can is also used as a helping verb. The restaurant is known for its variety of dishes. Is the helping verb, known is the main verb. She does speak up when prompted in class. Does is the helping verb, speak is the main verb. We have seen that movie 3 times. Have is the helping verb, seen is the main verb. She can tell when someone walks on her lawn. Can is the helping verb, tell is the main verb. So now that you know what makes a complete sentence, subject and a verb, you can use other parts of speech to build on this basic structure. Good writers use a variety of sentence structures to make their work more interesting. So here are the sentence patterns. Subject, verb. Computers hum. Subject, linking verb, noun. Computers are tools. Subject, linking verb, adjective. Computers are expensive. Subject, verb, adverb. Computers calculate quickly. Subject, verb, direct object. She rides a motorcycle. Subject, verb, indirect object, direct object. An indirect object explains to whom or to what the action is being done. The indirect object is a noun or pronoun, and it comes before the direct object in a sentence. My coworker gave me the reports. And you have to know these structures for the quiz, okay? And for your midterm and for your final. So these show up on, especially these particular formats show up on the quiz and on your test, as well as all of these definitions. So you have to know what is a helping verb, and you've got to know it in their particular wording. So what is a fragment? A fragment may include a description or may express part of an idea, but it does not express a complete idea. Children helping in the kitchen. Fragment. Children helping in the kitchen often make a mess. So that is a complete sentence. Fragment is usually something that's not a complete thought, and if you write a fragment in your essay, you get an F. So that's why if you know sentence structure, you can avoid fragments. And fragments are usually missing your subject, or missing a verb, or missing an object, making it an incomplete thought. So a fragment told her about the broken vase is missing a subject. So complete sentence, I told her about the broken vase. Fragment, the store down the street. So this is missing a verb and a direct object. So the store down the street sells music. Fragments often occur because of some common error, such as starting sentences with a preposition, a dependent word, an infinitive, or a gerund. If you use the 6 basic sentence structures when you write, you should be able to avoid sentence fragments. And when I mean the 6 basic, I believe these are the 6 basic sentence structures they're referring to. So if you know these 6 basic structures, you can avoid sentence fragments. That's why I always tell students that if you learn sentence structure, you can avoid sentence fragments. I think I've written that hundreds of times on everyone's essays through the years. If you learn sentence structure, you can avoid sentence fragments. And so usually a fragment is missing a subject, a verb, or an object. So always. So here, for example, taking deep breaths. So taking deep breaths and then a period, that's not a complete sentence. So here, correct, taking deep breaths, comma. Saul prepared for his presentation. Saul prepared for his presentation, period. He was taking deep breaths. So you have to have a complete thought, then you put the period. If you put an incomplete thought and a period, that's not a complete thought. That's not correct pronunciation. And also fragments. So fragments happen when you have incorrect punctuation. A run-on sentence. Just as a short, incomplete sentence can be problematic, lengthy sentences can be problematic too. Sentences with two or more independent clauses that have been incorrectly combined are known as run-on sentences. A run-on sentence may either be a fused sentence or a comma splice. So, a family of foxes lived under our shed. Young foxes played all over the yard. That is a fused sentence because here, a family of foxes lived under the shed. There should be a period over here. And instead of, in other words, it's missing a period. Instead, they just fused two sentences together. So that's wrong. We looked outside. Where's the period? There's no period over here. You don't put a comma at the end of a sentence. We put the comma. If you have list in a series, you put a comma. If you have a dependent clause at the beginning of a sentence. But at the end of a sentence, we don't use a comma. So when you use an unnecessary comma between two sentences, that's a comma splice. That's wrong. So you fix this by putting a period there. So when two complete sentences are combined into one without any punctuation, the result is a fused sentence. So when they ask you on the quiz, what's a fused sentence? That's when two complete sentences are combined into one without any punctuation. You got to memorize their words. When two complete sentences are joined by a comma, the result is a comma splice. My definition is comma splice is when you use a comma between two complete sentences and you use that comma unnecessarily. But obviously but it's the same thing. You just have to memorize their wording. Punctuation. So one way to correct run-on sentences is simply to remember to put in your comma and you put or you put in a period and not put in a comma, sorry. You put in a period or you put in a comma and a coordinating conjunction. So if I say John ate lunch, comma, and Mary ate salad, that's correct. Then you can put a comma in the middle of a sentence. So here, run on. There were no seats left. We had to stand in the back. Then correct. There were no seats left. Period. We had to stand in the back. You still have to capitalize the we. Capitalize the W here. Anyway, using a semicolon between two complete sentences will correct the error. A semicolon allows you to keep two closely related ideas together in one sentence. When you punctuate with a semicolon, make sure that both parts of the sentences are independent clauses. Why? Because a semicolon is another way of saying and. This is a shortcut. When you use a semicolon, you can use a semicolon between sentences that have similar meaning. When you use a semicolon to separate an independent clause, you may wish to add a transition word to show the connection between the two thoughts. The project was put on hold, semicolon, however, comma. We didn't have time to slow down, so we kept on working. So when you have a transition word, you can have a semicolon and then you can have a comma. coordinating conjunctions, fanboys, for, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. So the acronym fanboys will help you remember. So when you use coordinating conjunctions, you're combining two sentences of equal significance, and you are using it as a compound sentence. So you always put a comma before fanboys. So the new computer, as a printer, the new printer was installed, comma, but no one knew about it. And then you've got dependent words. So another way of saying dependent words is subordinating conjunction. So adding dependent words is another way to link independent clauses. Like the coordinating conjunctions, the dependent word shows a relationship between two independent clauses. But when you use dependent words, the sentence that has this sentence is less important than that sentence. Okay, so the sentence that has the dependent word is less important than the sentence that doesn't have it. Okay, so here, how do you know what is a dependent word? You can Google that. So Google yourself a list, dependent word list, subordinating conjunction word list, transitional word list. Coordinating conjunction is just fanboys, so you don't have to memorize that. So that way when you write your essay and you have all of these dependent word lists, transition word lists, then when you write your essay, you can have sentence variety. So you don't keep saying simple sentence, simple sentence, simple sentence. That makes your essay sound very choppy. So key takeaways. A sentence is complete when it contains both a subject and a verb. A complete sentence makes sense on its own. Every sentence must have a subject, which usually appears at the beginning of the sentence. A subject may be a noun, a person, place, or thing, or a pronoun. A compound subject contains more than one noun. A prepositional phrase describes or modifies another word in the sentence, but cannot be the subject of a sentence. A verb is often an action word that indicates what the subject is doing. Verbs may be action verbs, linking, or helping verbs. Variety in sentence structure and length improves writing by making it more interesting and more complex. Focusing on the 6 basic sentence structures will enhance your writing. Fragments and run-on sentences are 2 common errors in sentence construction. Fragments can be corrected by adding a missing subject or verb. Fragments that begin with a preposition or a dependent word can be corrected by combining the fragment with another sentence. Run-on sentences can be corrected by adding appropriate punctuation or adding a coordinating conjunction. So this particular video focuses only on 12.1. I believe that's what this whole section is, on sentence writing. And so if you like this video, feel free to subscribe to the Professor H Writing channel. And if you have any questions, feel free to email me anytime.